Good morning, New Zealand. It is Friday morning, and I notice from Lynette it's chilly in Christchurch, and Jackie says it's chilly in Ratahi. In fact, I think it's chilly around the whole country. Anyway, it's a Friday. Good morning. And this is Daybreak for the 6th of June, Friday heading into the weekend, so always a great day. If you missed solid ground yesterday, I wondered where it was. Simon was overseas. He's heading back. I think he arrives back in the country today. So he'll be back with solid ground next Tuesday at this time. All right, let's get into the stories for today. Firstly, just interested to see that the Ministry of Education went woke and said that they were all into Pride Week. Aotearoa. Everyone should feel safe, valued and respected. Yes, they should. But that's everyone. Representation matters. Whatever that means. Representation matters. Anyway, the Ministry of Education think that we should all focus on our 112 genders and 200 plus sexualities. You can see why RSE, the Relationship, Sexuality, Education, has gone so radical and why it's so difficult to turn things around despite the efforts of New Zealand First, because you've got the Ministry of Education deeply indoctrinated in it. Interestingly though, on a LGBT website, they are concerned about the fact that it is supposed to be Pride Month. I mean, it's the US, but New Zealand adopts it because it's a imported culture war. Don't tell them that. Yes, they've imported the culture war of pride from the US. But they think that something feels off. Brands once known for their bold pride collections seem to be retreating. Take Target, whose live, laugh, lesbian dress is forever etched into my brain. They've cut their pride collection back significantly. Nike has dialed things down, and even some New Zealand companies have pulled out of pride entirely. This year's pride gear feels muted. There's a clear reason behind the pullback. Right now, pride doesn't sell, and in a capitalist system, that's all that matters. In the US, conservative and religious pressure has pushed nearly 40% of pride products into the bin. That human personification of processed cheese, President Trump, well, that's not a very nice label. That's not inclusive and diverse. Calling Trump a human personification of processed cheese? Wow, where's the inclusivity here? Anyway, his use of anti-woke rhetoric has only reinforced this retreat, and now the same mindset has made it to New Zealand. And so they say to their community, take note of who's still showing up. Did your bank still wrap its ATMs in rainbows? Did your favourite beverage brand release a Pride Edition bottle? Can you grab a LGBT sandwich this year, which is lettuce, guacamole, bacon and tomato? And beyond the flashy stuff, are these companies actually investing in our community? Well, we can actually answer that. If you go to wokeup.nz, we'll tell you which are the wokest companies, and we're sort of publishing some of those companies on social media so you can keep up. There is quite a list and well worth checking out. On a more serious note, the general chat today is around this press secretary of the Prime Minister, the deputy press secretary, who has been found guilty of, no, he's not guilty of these things. He's guilty of using a prostitute and recording things and covertly recording women in general. And it's raised this whole issue of vetting candidates. And the Post today has this article about, well, should we be vetting for infidelity? A person's external loyalties, their personal relationships, financial considerations, alcohol and drug use, mental health problems. See, I'm not sure you're allowed to ask in that particular area, but of course they're talking about security clearances when you're hanging around the Prime Minister. I mean, it's interesting. They're actually making moral judgments here, and they don't actually realise. They're actually suggesting that someone who may be gambling, who is sleeping around, who is not faithful in marriage, who is using drugs, actually that could be a red flag. Do you see what's happening here? There's actually an admission that there is a moral standard. And one thing that has not come up in this whole debate around this Deputy Press Secretary of the Prime Minister is there is still a stigma to the fact that he is using prostitutes. Nobody is saying it out loud, but that's what people are thinking in general. He's off using prostitutes on a regular basis. They can decriminalise it, they can try and normalise it, but there is still a healthy stigma against prostitutes. Not them personally, because they are exploited, they are vulnerable. It's an industry that should be shut down. But the fact that you've got this ex-press secretary now having used prostitutes, and there's that kind of yuck factor, isn't there? And that's a good stigma. We should hang on to that one. Very interesting story out of the Australian this morning. You might remember we covered the story of a 12-year-old. The mum was trying to transition the child, transgender the child, but the dad opposed, and it went to court, and the judge basically slammed the gender activists. There's another update of that story in the Australian this morning, and the judge has criticised basically the key academic who has been pushing this. Now, I could name a few names in Australia, in New Zealand as well, of medical professionals who are pushing transing children. But basically, what the judge said, who criticised this hospital's chief of medicine, Professor Telfer, what hospital was it? Oh, it was Royal Children's Hospital, Melbourne. And apparently the hospital chief of medicine said, she cheapened the suffering, the judge said that the medical professional cheapened the suffering of victims of Nazism when she, the doctor, suggested a landmark review that recommended limitations on medication for gender dysphoric children was part of a wave of transgender oppression commencing with the Nazis. So basically, this medical professional said that if you stop children transing and actually heal the mind rather than cut and chemicalise the body, that is similar to the oppression that started by the Nazis. Unbelievable. The judge also questioned the standards of care and treatment guidelines. We have them in New Zealand through WPATH and PATHA, pushed by the Ministry of Health. And of course, the guidelines don't recognise that children may not be capable of making life-altering decisions about their gender identity. The judge said it is concerning that an oddly binary approach, in other words, become transgender or don't, is adopted in relation to children, especially of the age of the child, the subject of these proceedings, to affirm unreservedly those who present with concerns regarding their gender, brooking no question thereof. The case of the mother is that because the child says so, the child is, and must unquestioningly be affirmed as being female in gender identity. However, that overlooks the obvious, namely that the child is still a child, and not even, if it matters, a teenager. So the judge is basically calling out radical activist medical professionals, and we have some of them in New Zealand, and it would be wonderful to get a case in New Zealand and get it in front of a judge who had some backbone and was willing to call it out in New Zealand as well. Just very quickly, I did read, this was my laugh out loud moment. One News did this. US President Donald Trump has directed his administration to investigate Joe Biden, his actions as president, alleging that aides masked his predecessor's cognitive decline and cast doubts on the legitimacy of basically decisions he was making and his use of the auto pen to sign pardons and other documents. Here's the great line. This is from One News, and I think they said it with a straight face. The order by Trump marked a significant escalation in Trump's targeting of political adversaries. Yeah, apparently Trump is the first to target political adversaries. They probably need to check the court records and everything that they put Trump through for the last 8 years. But, you know, the left doesn't target political adversaries. No, it's only the right. It's only mean Trump that targets political adversaries. Anyway, I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Interesting report out of the United States. The Federal and Drug Administration are reviewing the abortion pill. Interesting. We talked about that on Wednesday, didn't we? About the founder of the abortion pill dying at the age of 98 and the, well, shocking legacy that he has left. but the FDA is checking the safety of the abortion pill. So that's got to be a good thing, because what they find will have an effect, and hopefully we'll get some impetus in New Zealand to examine it as well. Of course, it comes because of the analysis that was released recently that found that 1 in 10 women experienced a serious adverse event after taking mifepristone, the abortion pill. And there was another study that came out that said that more than 1 in 20 women, so over 5% of women, needed a second abortion attempt after the abortion pill failed. So that doesn't sound super safe, does it? The FDA says less than 0.5% of women suffered after taking the abortion pill. But in fact, it's 22 times higher than that. Ministry of Health also says that the abortion pill is totally safe. And it's not. It's not safe for the woman. It's also not safe for the unborn child because it kills them. Interesting one here, Tim Allen. I mean, I quite like him. He's a good actor, and most of his movies are pretty upfront and family friendly. Obviously, Toy Story was one of them, but there have been some very other funny ones, especially around Santa Claus and Christmas, etc. But he has started reading the New Testament as part of his journey of reading through the Bible. And he finished the Old Testament, said it's such a gift. And interestingly, he was raised as an Episcopalian, which I think that's the US for Anglican, I think. And he previously opened up about experiencing a period of skepticism following personal tragedies, including the death of his father when he was 11. In the late 70s, he was busted for possessing cocaine. In 2011, he described himself as a cynic who didn't like the idea of God, but he began to view God as the builder, which is kind of ironic because he was Tim the Tall Man, wasn't he? Anyway, he's one of several comedians who have expressed a growing interest in Christianity in recent years. And he says his favourite book in the New Testament, well, he's partway reading through the New Testament, but he is already amazed by Paul's letter to the Romans. Yeah, the book of Romans. Maybe Romans 1 is a particular section that has really challenged him. Lots of chatter this week, of course, about the new book. I'm not sure if you've bought it. I won't be buying it, and I won't be reading it. But I was fascinated by an interview that Justina Ardern did with our state broadcaster, Radio New Zealand, that you and I fund. And she was sort of asked about her legacy to families. And there was one particular item that I found particularly sickening. Have a watch.
The changes that were made to benefit rates in particular, starting, of course, lunch programs, and yes, people will play around with those, but they're there. Decriminalising abortion, the Zero Carbon Act, the framework we created for climate change.
Yes, benefits, lunch in schools, and killing the unborn child in the womb. Is that a legacy? And why would you want to claim that? The other thing that I noticed, and I want to do a bit more analysis of this, is that every interview about this new book from Jacinda, she has done media interviews, lots of media interviews, but every one of them has been a softball interview with a friendly interviewer. None worse was our state broadcaster, Radio New Zealand, who you and I pay for through our taxes. And all the interviewer wanted to do was to attack Trump and get Jacinda to say bad things about the Orange Man. Let me just show you this quick compilation that I made.
Phil Goff has been quite critical of Trump since he's been able to. You don't have anything holding you back, but I haven't seen you say much about President Trump and what many view as a threat to democracy and well, I could give you the list, but have you been too quiet on him? Trump is, of course, the face of the other style of leadership. What have you got to lose by saying his name and saying, this is what he's doing wrong and I speak out against it? Do you not think you could do some good globally by putting a face and a voice and you're an incredible communicator, putting a voice to the opposition to Trump?
Yeah, that's the official question line of the state broadcaster, Radio New Zealand. So basically it is, how can you bag Trump? I call the media the political party because in effect, they are a political party. They are basically presenting policies they like and trying to persuade you to like them as well. So let's start calling them the media party. They're another political party for you to consider whether you follow. Something that's really going to upset people, and remember that excerpt I showed you on Wednesday of Helen Clark talking about the populist, populist authoritarian right, winning elections around the world. How dare they? How dare they? And next minute, a staunch opponent of abortion and LGBT ideology has won the Polish presidential election, defeating an opponent who vowed to liberalise the Catholic majority country's abortion laws and express support for same-sex marriage. Karol Nawrocki, I think is how you say it. He made opposition to abortion and LGBT a central part of his campaign. At an event in January, he took a poster advertising the book Gender Queer and put it in a paper shredder. Good on him. Horrible book. He insisted in an interview in January that he is for life from beginning to natural death. He said, "I am a Christian and a Catholic," and he vowed that he would not restore the so-called abortion compromise that permits abortion of children with Down syndrome. Oh, wow. I mean, really, Canada and Australia are the outliers in terms of the left wing winning elections. Maybe the Canadians and Australians aren't as smart as we thought they were, and Europe, United States are turning to the right. And the latest one is in Poland, and it is actually very funny to watch. Just one important study that I just wanted to let you know and remind you that if you voted no in the cannabis referendum, you were right. And if you voted yes, it's okay, we forgive you. Because latest study out on marijuana, it's a systematic review of 10 studies, found that marijuana was associated with an increased risk for schizophrenia or psychosis-like events. Now, we'd actually already seen studies from this. There was a big British study that found it as well. A shocking 9 of these studies determined that the increased risk in psychosis and schizophrenia was statistically significant, but what they were most concerned about was the greater likelihood. There was a twofold greater risk amongst teens who were smoking dope as well. So, once again, a study that confirms that thankfully we all ignored the Druggy Foundation, Andrew Little and Chloe Schwarbrick, and we voted no in the cannabis referendum. We dodged an absolute bullet there. And just finally, there's a study that has come out in the United States from Tufts University, and it's been reported by a statistician and political commentator, Nate Silver. I don't know if you've heard of him, Nate Silver. But basically it said that among voters who said their mental health was poor, 45% of them were politically liberal, and just 19% were conservative. Let me show you the graph. So basically up the top is if you've got excellent mental health, and you'll see there that the Conservatives are far more likely to have excellent mental health than a Liberal or left wing. And if you have poor mental health, down the bottom there, you're far more likely to have voted for a left-wing party than be a Conservative. I mean, it's actually a doozy, isn't it? Now the question is, does voting for left-wing parties affect your mental health? Or is it because of your mental health that you voted for a left-wing party? I mean, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But the moral of the story is that because basically what the commentary said is that left-wing parties have basically abandoned pro-family, pro-religious messaging. They've left it to Conservatives to do that. But those are the very values that promote life meaning, interpersonal connection, and the mental well-being. Conservatives traditionally promote family values, and some 86% of Conservatives identify with religion, according to a Pew Research report. But it's also messaging coming from Conservative politicians about self-reliance and self-confidence, which are two traits highly associated with mental well-being. Identity politics has overtaken left-wing politics and political parties, same in New Zealand, as lefty leaders insist that immutable characteristics like race and gender are constantly holding citizens back from their potential. So, fascinating study. In other words, if you want to be happy, be a social conservative and vote for socially conservative parties. There's the moral of the story. Just before I go, gosh, we've gone a bit long this morning. It's Friday. We get away with it. Just before I go, I just want to show you the Wokest company. This is from Air Canada. If you're going to Canada, speaking of about Canada, if you're going to Canada, you might want to avoid Air Canada because they have decided to go on super woke. Here's a little clip from their latest video.
We are doing the first ever, now let me get that one straight because a few letters have been added to this one, 2S LGBTQ IA plus flight ever in Canada.
Oh, well done.
I do identify with the progress flag. There is something in there that represents me as well. So it was a bit of joy having the opportunity to do this flight today.
Aujourd'hui, ce que ça signifie, c'est vraiment un moment très spécial. C'est vraiment un terme de visibilité, de vraiment exprimer à tout le monde. On se sent vraiment accueilli, vraiment accepté pour qui on est.
Pour célébrer l'inclusion à la diversité, nous sommes heureux d'annoncer que le vol d'aujourd'hui
features our very first all 2S LGBTQIA+ crew.
Lovely.
The safety and the well-being of all the passengers on board rests in our hands. So it doesn't matter who they are, what they represent. I'm equally responsible for all of them.
D'ailleurs, on aimerait vous souligner, c'est le moment marquant de l'histoire canadienne.
And want to celebrate not just our community, but our freedom to be who we are, both at work and in society. Valuing people equally, both in the air and on the ground, and celebrating our identities, no matter what they are, with customers and our employees is important to us. Shante, you all stay.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. Fly the flag. Anyway, I thought that was very interesting because, when I get in a plane, I'm really not concerned about any of that stuff. I just want to know that the best pilot who can do the job and can land that plane. Yesterday, I was flying down to Wellington and it was very, very windy. I just want to know that they can land the plane the best. That's all I'm interested in. But anyway, Air Canada, go woke, go broke. Let's just quickly check. I can see I've really wound you up by even showing you the copy of that book. So that's interesting. Alex says, what a great judge from Australia about that transgender case. Exactly right. Amanda says that's because they need everyone and anybody to keep their business afloat. I would never fly with them anyway. That's Air Canada. And let's just check. Gosh, there's lots of comments coming today. You guys are all wanting to make your views known today. Unfortunately, I haven't got time. Dean says the righteous conservative are fighting a battle unseen. Dee says over 80 million voted for Trump. Get real. I guess that's about the whole democracy thing, or is that the Polish one? Not sure about that, Dee. Yeah, okay. Lots of comments. Anyway, we are out of time. We are well out of time, actually. It is Friday. That means we're heading into the weekend. That is fantastic news. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you back here Monday morning at 7:30. Bye for now.